Okay, my name's Paul Quinn with Perfect Golf Event. We help people set up websites for their charity golf events, set up contests and formats to attract players and sponsors. And we like to do informational, educational sessions to help you have a better event. So this is a very detailed webinar. It's kind of down into the nuts and bolts of how to manage a golf event. And so a couple of housekeeping notes. Again, it's very detailed. I'm not going to read every slide to you because I'll be glad to um, send you the copy of the notes following this, so you'll have all the notes and things. So don't have to worry about copying everything down. So that's good pace that we're going to go through. We have some new organizers on. We have some experienced organizers. I've been doing this about 16 years. So I've kind of accumulated everything in different lists and checklists and things for managing an event. So hopefully that's what you signed up for. And let's sit back, enjoy it. If you have any questions, you can email me at paul@perfectgolfevent, and I'll be glad to answer them after the webinar. So let's talk about your ultimate objective to having a golf event. Why do you want to have it? Well, obviously, you want to make sure it's a fundraising event. You want to raise funds, but it's really important to make sure that you give them what I call an event to remember. So you want to have an event where people say when they leave, hey, that was really a great event. I'm coming back. It was well organized. Everything was there that I expected. There weren't any glitches. And the reason you do that is to make sure that they feel comfortable that the money that they're raising is going to be managed properly. And that kind of reflects on how you organize a golf event. So you want to execute a well executed event. Again, players and sponsors are going to react to how well your event is organized, so trust how you're going to spend the funds. And if you have a good experience, you're going to generate the interest you want for people to come back. There's lots and lots of golf events right now because of COVID. People are having to go outside, so they can't have galas and indoor events, trivia nights. We've seen about a 30% increase in the number of events being set up because people can do it in a safe environment. So you want to make sure that you've had a great event, so they'll put it on their calendar for the following year. We're going to walk through a number of things, and I'm not going to read every slide to you because you'd fall asleep. But basically, we're going to cover everything from working with your golf course and your committee, your marketing plan, your volunteer assignments, the pre-event checklist, and all the key things you're going to need to know to organize and execute your event. And again, for those of you who are just signing on, don't copy everything down because I'll be glad to send you not only copy the presentation, but any of the checklists that you want as well. So when you're starting an event, again, I've got some new organizers on here. The first thing I do, and I talked to 3 events this morning that were having their first event. And the questions I always ask them is, first of all, why are you raising the money? And have you set up do you have a strong message so that people will understand very clearly why you're raising the money? I do an event here in St. Louis for the Backstoppers, and the Backstoppers raises funds to support the survivors of first responders that are injured or deceased in the line of duty. Very simple message, very strong message, and people understand why we're raising funds. So make sure you've got your message fine-tuned. You got to make sure you have have an effective, energized committee, and I'll go through the committee checklist in a minute. You should have your database of potential players and sponsors. I'm going to teach a webinar right after this one on how to sell sponsorships and find sponsors. But you've got to start with a database of people that you're going to invite to your event. You're not going to be able to have an event without a database. You're just not going to be able to go out to the general public and hold a golf event. Do you have initial startup funds that you'll need for your deposits? Have you allowed enough time? Usually you want to allow 6 to 9 months to organize a golf event. Now, I've done some quicker. I've done them in 2 months. It doesn't mean you can skip any steps. It just means you have to work a little faster and harder. And then do you have your website set up so people can register online? You can process payments, you can manage your pairings, all those things. Hopefully you're using Perfect Golf Event for that. And then do you have your marketing plan? And we're going to go through the marketing checklist as well as we go through this process. So let's talk first about your golf course. Now, some of you may already have booked your golf course. You haven't signed up. You've signed your contract. It doesn't mean you don't want to go through some of the things I'm going to cover now. So you want to ask the golf course a number of things. And I find that some organizers kind of let the golf course, dictate to them what they're going to do. Well, you've got to push back a little bit and make sure you've got the information you need to have a successful event. So again, I'm going to give you this checklist later on, and I'm not going to read all these things, but there's some things that I've done, again, doing this for 16 years, that have surprised me at events, and I've learned that there's things just like making sure the golf course is ours all day, that there's not other groups hanging around doing practice or on the putting green. You know, is a golf course going to give you support? Will they promote it to your database? Are you going to have sound system, audio visual equipment, registration tables? How about the range balls? Are you going to be able, will they take your tax exempt certificate? So even if you've signed a contract for your event, you're going to want to look through some of these things that I put in here, and you're going to want to go through, and maybe you have to go back to the golf course and say, wait a second, you know, what's the rain policy? Now, it's easy to say, okay, they told us we could have a rain date. But I've run into a couple times over the years where we've played 6 holes and then it rained. What's the deal then? Are they counting that as a full day? Are they going to give you a credit back for that? So make sure you understand what their full policy is in case even if you get rained out right in the middle of the round. You know, check on internet access. Will they give you foursomes to use for your raffle? There's all these things you have to think about. Again, we're not going to read all these because we've got a lot of cover today. But you want to pull your contract out and you want to go through it and make sure that you've asked these questions and make sure you know, even if you assign someone to your committee, to go ahead and do that. Then make sure if you haven't got your golf course yet, I hope you do because they're filling up pretty quickly with events. But if you go meet the golf course, make sure you've got your stuff organized as well, because golf courses have the ability to say, hey, I've got this perfect date. I've got a great date for an event, and they're going to decide which event they want to take. And if you're organized, that you've got your stuff together, you've got your what dates you want, you have committee members, how many times you have the event, how many golfers. They may ask you how you're going to say, I've got 144. Everybody says they're going to get 144 golfers. The average number of golfers last year was 120. So you don't want to overcommit to them, but the golf course may say to you, okay, you're telling us you're going to get 120 golfers. Really, how are you going to get that? Then you may say, hey, we'll take a look at our marketing plan. You know, make sure what you want for your beverages, your food, your agenda, all those things. Do you need space for an auction? Be organized yourself, because that gains the respect of the golf course. And they'll realize, hey, these people know what they're doing. So we're comfortable giving them one of our prime dates for our event. So again, afterwards, I'll be glad to send you the golf course checklist. I put it all into one document that you just go through your contract and make sure that you have everything that you need. Again, for some of you who are just signing on, I'm going to send you a copy of this presentation if you want it, and any checklists as well. So again, it's got everything you need, the questions you should ask, how to be prepared. All right, let's talk about committees. Hey, this might be the time, if you've got started your committee meetings, that this is the time to add new committee members to your committee. You know, maybe you want to get somebody that was a participant in 2022 that really liked your event and has some energy. So it's always good to energize your committee. Take a look at your committee and look and say, this person was really good. They really brought some people in. This other person, not being negative, maybe the other person kind of wasted a lot of time talking about stuff that wasn't, you know, relevant to getting players and sponsors. So this is a time to energize and expand your committee. You also want to jump right in and ask your committee members to give you the names of potential teams and sponsors already for 2022. So you can say, okay, we had an event last year. So what do you think for this year? Who do you think is coming back? Who had a good experience? Who do we have that we could talk to about coming to the 2022 event? Okay, and again, I'm going to give you a checklist, but these are some of the things I work with when I'm identifying, and I actually do a lot of managing of events for organizations. You know, so I always walk through them and say, hey, you know, be selective on your committee. Don't just choose anybody. Make sure that people have business connections. Prepare an agenda. Make sure you've got it distributed. I've seen a lot of committees waste so much time because they don't have an agenda, and they spend the first hour talking about what the hors d'oeuvres are going to be for the event. You want to focus all your committee members on potential players and potential sponsors. That's the number one thing you're going to do with any committee meeting. Open it up all the time. Who do we have coming? Who do we have sponsoring? You can deal with some of the other things later on, but you got to keep them all focused on filling your event. Now, you can have some subcommittees. You might have a sales and marketing committee, an operations committee, volunteer, and these people just maybe one person. I just did an event in Florida, and because of the format that I did, we needed 42 volunteers. So they had 2 people in charge of getting the volunteers. We had a volunteer station for registration. We trained the volunteers. So we had some people involved with that. So you might have separate committees, but make sure they're all reporting back into your big committee so everybody is up to date on what's going on. Because of COVID, we've all learned how to do Zoom meetings and online meetings. That's been a real boon because you don't have to worry about driving across town. You can get right into the meat of the agenda, get everybody on. Let's go. How many players do we have? How many sponsors do we have? What's our marketing plan going forward? And the next meeting is going to be in 2 weeks. And nobody's having to drive around town or sit around there talking about the local football team. Again, I've prepared a checklist. That's our committee tips and techniques. It kind of walks you through that process of things to look at to make sure you maximize your committees. Committees are an effective committee really can make your golf event achieve the goals that you want. So just an email to support a perfect golf event. They'll send you the committee checklist. You want to take a look at, and I teach a whole nother webinar on this, but you want to take a look at your format for this year. What are you going to play? Remember, 99.5% of the events have the same format. Every event in America, except for a very small percentage, is a 4-person scramble. That 4-person scramble takes 5 to 6 hours, and I live in St. Louis, and I can play in a 4-person scramble between May 1st and September 30th almost every day of the week. So it's just the same format. So you may want to consider a different format. I'll give you some ideas. One tip I want to give you is whatever you're going to do with your event, make sure you've set up separate team prizes for men and women. You need to attract more women golfers. Again, the event I just did in Florida, I've been doing it for about 8 years. The first year we had 1 women's team. This year we had 7 women's team. And because we had a separate division, we made the women feel comfortable coming to the event. It's helped us completely sell out the event. And so think about that as you're putting your events together. Don't just have one division for men. Have separate and get women involved. And I'll talk a little bit later about getting women comfortable at your event. To talk about format, here's an example, just an idea. Here's an event that was just held in 2021. It was the second year they did it. And they're doing it again already on April 25th of this year. But instead of doing a 4-person scramble, they just switched to a new format. And so what they did is we walked them through the process of setting up 18 par 3 holes. So we moved the tee boxes up on the whole course. So it gave us 18 hole-in-one contests. We were done in 3.5 hours. We had a shootout for $500,000. The first year they sold out, raised $106,000, which is amazing for a first-year event. They sold out in 2021, and they're already sold out for 2025 because they put this cool format in, and they were done in 3.5 hours. So that's a big factor because if you've run events before, you know how long the golfers could be on the course. If it's a hot day, it's painful. So it's good to think about some other formats. And some of the ideas for formats, and I've got a session on formats recorded on Perfect Golf webinars if you want to listen to it. It kind of reviews it in more detail. But some of the formats we're working with events are, so they're going to play 18 holes normally, but they're going to add a shootout at the end. That gives something more exciting to finish the event with some of the golfers, taking a shot for $500,000 or $1 million or $100,000, which are insurance that we provide, but it's a nice way to finish the event. Some events are doing 9 par 3 holes and 9 regulation holes. So moving the tee boxes up on 5 holes, and it gives you some regular holes so they can use their driver, but it gives you more contests and hole-in-one contests and sponsor opportunities. Some, again, are going to all par 3s, which I really love because you're done so fast. And then the final one, which we've just started to introduce, we had an organizer brought us. We have a lot of great organizers we get a lot of information and ideas from. But she came in with a format where she's playing 18 holes in the morning on a regular golf course, playing all normal 18 holes. But she's put a 9-hole event in the afternoon around 2 o'clock. They're going to play a 9-hole par 3 tournament. So the golfers who aren't comfortable, maybe they're a casual golfer and they don't want to play full 18 holes, but they want to support, have some fun. So they're just going to come out and play 9 holes in the afternoon. And then they invite all the golfers back for the rewards reception in the afternoon. They have a shootout. I love this format because it lets you bring serious golfers in the morning and some casual golfers in the afternoon, and you're raising money for both groups. And again, there's some webinars I've recorded on Perfect Golf webinars on just how to set these formats up if you have any interest in it. One thing in your checklist to take a look at is, what are your event day highlights? Why would somebody come play in your event versus another event? Very good question. So here's an event that I do in St. Louis. And you can see when we put our event day highlights, we say, look, come to our event. We're going to have lunch and buffet. We got a putting contest for a trip to the Ryder Cup. We're going to have a helicopter ball drop. On the course, we've got some cool hole-in-one contests. We actually we have liquor sampling stations. We bring a taco truck out that parks next to the tequila station. We have beer stations. We have chances to win shirts and hats on the golf course. And then we finish it with $1 million shootout. So if somebody's in St. Louis and they're deciding on September 30th, do I want to play in a 4-person scramble with a box lunch and some awards, or do I want to play in this event? Wow, look what's loaded into this event. So one of the things I want you to do is go to your committee and sit down and say, okay, what's our highlights? What are we doing before the event? What are we doing on the course? What are we doing afterwards? So people would say, wow, I need to be at that event. That's what you're asking. And you see there's different sections. So it's a good thing to review with your committee. This backstoppers, this raises a net of 100,000. It's been sold out. I think this one's our 7th year. It's completely sold out. And we have a bunch of other things on it. Now, you also want to set up a number of contests in your event. So go through your contest checklist. And these are some of the contests we did in 2021, because you want to attract people to your event to say, hey, come out, you might have a chance to win some fun prizes. And you don't have to do a car. I don't like cars necessarily because it's usually a 2-year lease, and then the person has to pay taxes on that. So we can insure anything you want for a hole-in-one contest. So if you want to do a trip to the Kentucky Derby or a trip to Disney World for a family or Napa wine tour or a Vail ski vacation, anything we can put a value on, we can insure. So you want to take a look at your hole-in-one contest. You want to consider a Firetruck ball drop or a helicopter ball drop. Again, this is what I do with the backstoppers. You know, we sell we sell 3 golf balls for $100. We give $2,500 to the winner. I think last year it netted $18,000. Just another fun thing to add. And you can put it all into a super ticket. And I have another webinar on Thursday where we'll talk about all the fundraising contests. But I put everything on a super ticket that says, hey, for one price, rather than registration, having a person give you $10 for a mulligan, $10 the raffle ticket, $20 to get a putting contest, put everything in on a super ticket. So here they got an entry into the putting contest, chipping contest, the golf ball drop. We have a new raffle prize system called Golf Surprise. They got a couple mulligans and a discount in the pro shop. It's sponsored by someone. And this is a super ticket that we sell at that event for $100. And it covers everything, and you don't have people running around giving you $5 here, $10 here. In COVID, environment, you want to reduce all that. So remember, contests are important to attracting golfers. And if you want copies of our new contest brochures and hole-in-one contest brochures, just let me know. I think it's on the downloads if you want to download it. And again, same thing with player gifts. All right, let's talk about, again, the session I'm going to be doing right after this is how to sell sponsorships. But I will get a couple of highlights here because it's part of my checklist, is make sure that you've got sponsorship packages that sell. A lot of events don't have enough sponsorship packages. So this is important. And again, I'll send you a copy of this presentation, but I sometimes will look at a website and it'll say they have a title sponsor, a hole sponsor, and some tee signs. And that's it. You need to have lots of sponsorship opportunities at different price levels so people can find something that fits their budget. So you want to have lots of sponsorships. And you want to make sure when you put those sponsorships together that you've got some sizzle in them. Like what's the sponsor going to get before the event? What's the sponsor going to get during the event? And what's the sponsor going to get after the event? You want to put some sizzle in there rather than just saying, hey, you want to be my title sponsor for $10,000? You're going to get your logo on the banner. Wow, where do I send my check? So this is important to put sizzle into these things. So here's an examples. of when I do my sample sponsorships. I'll go back here. When I do my sample sponsorship, these are my 3 pages of sponsorships that I set up for all my events, and I might change the price. So I might be in a market that can't support a $25,000 title sponsor, so I change it to 10, but I still load in all the stuff that should be there. So another part of your checklist to go through with your committee is, if we're going to have a title sponsor, a presenting sponsor, a $1 million shootout sponsor, what are we giving them? Just please don't tell me it's going to say your logo on the website and the name on the banner. Please give us more than that so they can write a big check to you. So I'll be glad to send the sample sponsorship packages to you as well. And again, I have a recorded session of how to sell sponsorships on Perfect Golf webinars, a previous session, doing a brand new one today at 3 o'clock. Make sure you've got your financial plan set. If you've been in one of my previous webinars, you know I always preach this. Make sure you put together your 2021 results. If you had an event before, plug in the prior year results so you know how you did so you can measure. And then start plugging in your new stuff, your 2022 revenue projections. So you put those into a spreadsheet, and then you plug in all your expenses. When you're done, you're going to get your bottom line. So you can take all your revenue projections and all your expense projections. You're going to hit a button that's going to tell you, hey, this is what you're going to raise net. And if you're not meeting your expectations, then you just need to either increase your revenue, sell more sponsorships, or reduce your expenses. Just go through it line by line and make sure you compare it to what you did in previous years so you're always increasing in each category. And if you want this template to use for your planning, again, be glad to send you a copy. This is really important. This is the marketing checklist. So if you're going to be doing a golf event, you got to make sure you've got everything in place for your marketing thing. This is very important. You don't need to spend a lot of money, but you've got to make sure you've got marketing going on all the time. So I'll be glad to send you this checklist again for marketing, how to promote your event. So make sure when you're sending out email blasts, you're adding some cool stuff to it. You're not just saying, come on out to our golf event on September 30th. You're going to say, come out to our event on September 30th. Here's why we're raising funds. And by the way, we're going to have some cool contests. We got some cool activities. Give people reasons to do it. Make sure you've got your social media campaign set up. I'll talk about that in a minute. And make sure you've got everybody in your committee doing the same thing, promoting it on their social media sites. So that will spread the message more if you tell everybody, hey, you're on Facebook, please put out on Facebook the link to our website. You want to give them sample email and social media text. Don't just tell them, please promote my golf event. Give them some text to use. So I send out a list and I'll say, okay, here's 4 blocks of text you can use. Send this one out this week. Next week, send this one out. 3 weeks, send this one out. 4 weeks, send this one out. And give them some cool stuff to say. Hey, come on out. We're having a putting contest for money. Or come on out. Somebody's going to have a chance to shoot for $1 million. Or come on out. We got a great buffet set up. Add content to it so you're building excitement for your event. Just don't go out and say, please come to my event. That's fine, but you can only do that one time and then it gets boring. You might want to consider a flyer. I use flyers for all my events, driving people to the website. So make sure you've got a professional website, just like this is one, Backstopper's event for this using the website for online registration. And you can set your website up for free on Perfect Golf Event. Here's examples of brochures. This is an event that I just did last week down in Florida. And you can see we did a 4-page brochure. And excuse me, it's very professional. It's 4 pages. And you can see that it's got a lot of sponsorships, a lot of sizzle set up in sponsorships. It's driving them to the website so people can register. So you don't have to do a 4-pager. You can just do a simple 1-page flyer, but you want to have something that drives everybody to your website. If you're going to do it, if you're using Perfect Golf Event, we'll help you develop images to promote on social media. If you not sure you knew this or not, but Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, they have different size requirements for anything you want to post. So you can't create a banner that's going to go on all 3 of them, have it work. So if you're using Perfect Golf Event, our team will develop banners with you that fit the different social media. And then you can send those banners out to your teams to say, hey, please post this on Twitter, please post this on Facebook, please post this on Instagram, and they'll be easy to upload. A lot of my events, I do a press release. If you haven't done a press release, it's a good idea. Here's a sample of one. And it adds credibility to your event. You don't necessarily have a lot of media pick up the coverage. I don't care about that necessarily. What I care about is that anybody I'm going to talk to about the event, I bring the press release. And again, it makes it seem like we know what we're doing, that we're running a professional event. Here's my press release. If you become a sponsor, we'll add you to the press release. Players can read about where the money's going. It's just a nice touch to add. So I'm giving you lots of ideas, and you're not going to be able to pull all the levers, but the more you pull, the better results you're going to get for your event. And so for my events, I put together a kit. The kit will have an intro letter, a brochure, event brochure, a fact sheet, all the contact people, and I put all in one folder that I can give to people, especially the sponsors, to say, hey, here's where my event is happening, here's what's going to go on. And I'll tell you what, you'll get a good response, almost more effective than a brochure, because it looks really professional and serious, and they believe, hey, if they're doing this, they must know how to manage the money they're raising as well. That's always a good perception, so that people trust you with their money. What you want to do is make sure you put everything on a marketing calendar. So you want to have a marketing calendar you can work with your committee. Let's see if I've got the next one. Yeah. So you want to take a look and go through all the activities, like putting up your website, your early bird special, promoting social media, doing email campaigns, your committee meetings, your press kit. You're going to do an online auction. And then you can look at this and say, well, you know what? We're not doing enough in May for our event. So I assign one person on our committee to manage the calendar, and then come back to us and say, hey, it looks like we're a little light in March. We don't have much going on in March. What else can we do to promote our event? So put it all on a calendar, and that calendar, I'll get to send you the template to use. This calendar also lets you track your progress. So where the calendar items are here, you can also plug in things like, what's your revenue goal? What's your sponsor goal? How many registrations you have? And each month, when you distribute the calendar for people to review, you can start plugging in the numbers to say, hey, in March, our goal was this. We have this much sponsor revenue so far. We've had this many players register. That keeps your committee members in tune and keeps everybody focused on, hey, we're ahead of our goals or behind our goals. Okay, so communicate this. I send this out to my committee members every Monday for the 12 events that I manage. And I call it my good morning report. And I say, good morning, it's Monday. Here's where we stand. Please take a look and let's keep after it. So next week we have better results. On this spreadsheet, we also have the place where you can plug in your potential sponsors. So you can start plugging in by company, contact, phone, email, who's following up with them, and what's the status. Are they considering it? Are they in? Are they saying wait till next year? And I'll cover this more in my sponsorship webinar. Make sure, again, you're using the website, using Perfect Golf Event, hopefully. We found that people who had an online registration process before their event raised 22% more last year. And the reason is because people can pay online. They can buy more stuff online. They can buy mulligans, raffle tickets, auction items. It's a secure transaction, so they're not nobody wants to put their credit card on a form anymore and fax it. I mean, my son didn't even know what a fax machine is. And so, again, it's a secure way to register. Make sure you've got your website up and running with online registration, payment processing. Again, hope for using us. But if you aren't, here's a checklist of things you want to do to make sure your website does everything you need for the technology to support your event. Again, if you're using Perfect Golf Event, we'll automatically send you checklists every time period, 5 months away, 4 months away, 3 months away, with reminders on what you should be working on. So you'll be focused on the things you should be doing now and not being distracted. So these are just, we have it from 360 days all the way to the day after your event. Now, this is really important. A lot of people miss this. This is volunteer assignments. And so it's very important that you understand how many volunteers you need and what those volunteers are going to do. And to help, we've put that all on a spreadsheet for you called Volunteer Checklist. And it shows you all the things that you have to do, what the assignments are, how many volunteers you're going to need, and whether the volunteers are mobile or not. So here's the task. How many people are required? Oh, sorry, let's go back. And then are they mobile? Meaning, If I have 2 volunteers checking all the supplies to make sure everything's there the day of the event, well, after they check it, I don't need them there anymore, so I can move them over to registration. So if I have somebody assemble the gift packages for the players, well, once they're done, I can move them somewhere else on the course as a witness. So this would give you an idea of how many volunteers you need to recruit for your event. This same checklist, if you look at the bottom here, it's got volunteer assignments, event supplies, and sign checklist. So the second tab is the event supplies that you're going to need. And the next tab has the signs and banner reminders that you're going to need for your event. I mean, I don't think people who don't organize a golf event understand how many details are involved. So congratulations for you taking this on. If you've managed an event before, you know how many details are involved. We're just trying to put it on some forms that will make it easier for you to get it done and execute your event successfully. I've also prepared a volunteer training manual. Again, I had this event in Florida last Thursday. I think it was 42 volunteers, and I had prepared a volunteer guidebook for them that walked through everything I expected of that day that they should do, where everything was, where was the putting green, where's the luncheon going to be, where's the awards reception, where's the first tee, where's the score of the carts, how to measure for close to the pin, what is a hole-in-one. So if you want a copy of this, you can customize it to your event, but you want to have a volunteer training because you want your volunteers to be prepared. You want them to have some apparel, like a hat or a shirt, so people can identify them. But if you have good volunteers, you're going to have a good event as well. Now, remember this. We did a survey, and this is why I'm so stressful on being organized. Not stressful, stressing. Making your event special is 72% of the players said to us they judge their event on how well it's organized, including the check-in process. So when I have my events and we have check-in, for example, I don't have long lines. I divide the registration area by alphabet, so I have a line, A through L, M through Z. I make sure that there's no huge lines. There's nothing more depressing than a golfer looking and seeing 25 people in line while you're trying to find the stuff for them. You got to get that registration process smooth. If you don't have an auction, you might want to add an online auction to your event. That will help people engage, and we have an auction tool called Perfect Silent Auction. And we have spreadsheets that help you track your auction items, the costs, the starting bid, the increments, so it'll keep you organized if you're doing either an online auction or a day of auction. Let's talk about tips to make your event special. Remember, golfers have a lot of options. They can be at home with their family, they can be doing business, they can be playing in another event. So make sure that you're doing things well. So communicate with them, make them comfortable. Go out there and send them an email with the date, the dress code, the forecast, what to have, where to check if the weather the day of the event. Tell them to bring sunscreen. Where's the bag drop? Is there GPS on the carts? Do they need to bring a rangefinder? Anything you can provide to make them feel comfortable and organized, it reflects well on you. And I'm not going to read all these from the start. Again, train your volunteers. Make sure there's a rules sheet on the cart. If you're going to charge extra for things, tell them to make sure to bring money, but then put it all on a big super ticket so golfers can pay it once rather than paying multiple event fees. Again, I'm not going to read all these, but these are tips on how to prepare your players. Again, make sure you've got your event branded. This is my guide I use on the golf course for where all my signs are going to be. So I'll have a sign directing people where to go to bag drop, where to go to the registration area, where's the range, where can they buy mulligans or super ticket, I have pin flags, where are my hole signs. So I lay everything out on a map so I can work with the golf course and make sure the day of the event, all the sponsors are getting the right recognition. So if you want, again, I've got a brochure that does all this for you. And this is the event this is the event I do. And you can see the types of signs that I have are volunteer check-in. Where's the practice range? Where's parking? Where's the welcome area? Registration's divided. You got arrows going each way. Make them feel comfortable. And again, when they pull up and they see all this, they go, these people really know what they're doing. They must know how to use the money that we're giving them to support it. So signs are good for a professional event. For the event day checklist, make sure you've go through the checklist, arrive early, make sure you're setting everything up, get your registration check things done. Again, I don't want to read all these to you because you're going to look at them, but this is a checklist I'll send to you. Couple of things to do. Make sure you've got everybody emailed ahead of time. have a volunteer training 20 minutes before your event or 90 minutes before your event. If you're having a putting contest, do it before your event. It's horrible to do a putting contest in the middle of the event where people are stopping and putting. It slows the whole thing down. So get it done before tee off. Make sure you monitor the pace of play so you can adjust if your guys are out there slow. You got to move the buffet, whatever it's going to be. You got to move the time for the bar so everything's fresh. Monitor your pace of play. And this is really important. If you have an auction or a raffle at the end, especially an auction, make sure you have a way to handle the payments so there's no line. Nothing kills an event more than at the end, people standing in the line trying to pay. I've seen this, it just kill an event. Great event up to the end, and then people are waiting 35 minutes to pick up their autographed baseball because there's a big line to pay. Get that all smoothed out. I'll give you a layout here for your award ceremony. Again, you don't want me to read this to you, but you should have an agenda for your award ceremony, including have a decent master of ceremonies, someone who's comfortable with the crowd. And then after your event, here's a checklist of things you want to do to wrap up. Besides cleaning up, make sure you leave the course in good shape so you can come back following year. Get your committee evaluation right away, pay your bills, thank your sponsors, update your database, and then get ready and sell sponsorships for next year. Go back to everybody and say, hey, didn't we have a great time? I can reserve your spot for next year already if you want to participate. And again, these are the post-event checklist items as well. Again, as soon as your event is over, make sure you've got your website up for 2023, because I ask people right away, didn't you have a good time? Well, go ahead and sign up for my next event right now. If you had a good time, I'll guarantee you a spot. Always marketing, always building momentum for your event. Okay, I know we went quickly. We cover a lot of stuff. Be glad to send you the copy of the presentation. If you need any of the handouts or anything that we covered, just let me know. And again, we may ask you to review the webinar, and just don't put down we went too fast. I always know I do, but hopefully you'll appreciate the content. So anything I can do for you, you can send your questions to support@Perfect Golf Event. My team can handle, or feel free to email me directly at Paul@PerfectGolfEvent. Really, thank you very much for listening. Hope you'll join me in future webinars, and let's have a great event in 2022. Thank you again.